Hello, everyone, and welcome to UGAsports.com, the all things Georgia call-in show here on Sunday nights on UGAsports.com. I'm your host, Paul Meharry, joined alongside Eddie from Ackworth, who is in a different room. That room looks very long. And we also have Andy Stowe with us in the same room that he's always in, looking great. Great craftsmanship on that house that Andy's in. So we appreciate you guys joining us here on Sunday night. A lot to talk about. It's the first time we, as UGAsports.com, have gone live since Caleb Downs happened. We're going to touch it very briefly because we don't want to touch on it too long. We're going to get into also the Falcons head coaching search. Very interesting stuff coming out of Flowery Branch, right down the road from my house here. And also that Georgia basketball team. If you turned the game off early, it's a totally different team than what finished the game. So we'll talk about that as well. Before we get into all of that, I'm going to tweet the show out. Also, if you're watching us, let us know where you're watching from. And if you want to join the show, the link is in the description. Also, last plug here. If you have any questions, make sure you put them into the chat and we can get them up on the screen. This guy says, anybody struggling with bills? This is a fake account. We're all doing okay here. You're getting blocked. All right. Eddie, you're not struggling with bills. I've seen your house. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Paul, and welcome back. We missed you last weekend. It was nice.
I don't know if you did, Eddie. I heard the end of that show, but we'll act like you did.
Paul, we live for this show and for sports to give each other a hard time. And if you can't handle that by now, you need to be doing something else for a living, right? Come on.
Right.
No, but I appreciate Dane and Brent Rollins and Dane Young hosting with us. We had a great time. It was a great show, and we chopped up a lot of what Brent wrote about fixing college football, which I think is a brilliant article. So we talked a lot about that. But, yeah, it's been a nice week, Paul. And like I said, I'm glad to have you back running the ship and riding the ship, as it were. But, yeah, it's amazing to me, guys, is the amount of stuff locally that we still have to talk about. And I'm talking about Georgia Bulldogs and the Falcons. And usually this time of year, it's like, well, the Falcons suck. We're just going to suck again next year. And Georgia's season's over, so we're already looking ahead to next year. It's just been nonstop news going around to talk about. It's incredible.
Which is fun.
I think the Falcons interviewed like 9 guys already. So, I mean, I would have never thought they would have got that many. But
that's good. I mean, last time they interviewed one guy and like, search is over. I mean, I don't know if it was just one, but it wasn't this many. That's for damn sure.
And they definitely picked the wrong guy last time. So maybe this time they can pick the correct guy. We need a little something.
So we'll touch on it, guys. Ken wants to know, did Eddie get a haircut? It looks good.
I did. Thank you for noticing, Ken.
And then he follows it up with gray hair. It says he's using gray hair for men. So
yeah, by the way, I have a birthday Friday, so it gets even older. So gross.
How old are you?
So let's talk about Caleb Downs, guys. He was real quick. He was in Athens, was coming to Georgia. OSU threw a monumental size bag, especially for a safety, at him, switched up, went to OSU. If you do any research or any backlogging on this, his dad and I think it's the defensive backs coach, are like good buddies from high school. Okay. So kind of work, I don't know. Again, I don't think this is one of those things where they decided, hey, we're going to run Georgia through the mud here. I think that OSU came in the 11th hour, 59-minute, and just threw a bag at them. And we used to say this, right? And it's just kind of weird to me. And not so much Caleb Downs, but just this whole thing in general. We used to say like, oh, well, he's got to be getting the bag, right? 5 years ago, he's like, oh, he's got to be getting the bag to go to Auburn. Now, like, we talk about it because he actually is. We know for a fact that he is. Like, it's just weird, and it's out there, and it's changed the whole game, and it's just one of those things where nothing is ever, done until what? You see him on the field, Eddie? I mean, not even signing. I mean,
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
You see him on the field. I mean, Julian's saying, signed with Alabama. Now he's going to Ohio State. He signed the dotted line.
Yeah.
He's going to Ohio State. So, I guess the overall scheme of this is, you guys touched on it last week. Is there a way to fix this, or is this just out of control? Is Caleb Downs going to do it next year when Ryan Day doesn't when he gets fired because he can't beat Michigan? Is he going to go back around? There's just so many different aspects of this that have gotten thrown around now that I want to see what you guys, a quick thought on maybe fixing this. Is it fix it, or is it just an arms race?
I think it's an arms race, but like if he were to transfer next year, he couldn't play though, right? Because this is his one free transfer.
Andy.
Those days are gone, brother.
Yeah,
no, you only get one transfer right now.
No. You didn't see that West Virginia judge that was like, you can't stop these kids from doing that? Look, if Caleb Downs wanted to transfer again next year, look at JT Daniels. The dude transferred 17 times and played 17 different times.
Yeah, shoot, he could go in the portal in the spring.
Yeah. Yeah, right? They're going to make sure that these guys can play. So, no, that you can't stop with – that's a bad take, Andy. Bad take.
I think that's the rule, though. I think the rule is you get one free transfer.
Look it up, Mr. Stats.
I'll look it up because who was it that was saying a couple of weeks ago that about the 30-day window, and who wasn't? Just saying. So,
look, you were right on that. Continue though, Eddie. How do you fix it, Eddie? Do you fix it?
I mean, the only way you fix this, Paul, is that the college football breaks off from the NCAA and appoints a czar to run this thing. And until that happens and some rules can get established, nothing's going to change. It's going to be a free-for-all, and they'll try to tweak things here and there to try to fix this. But the toothpaste is out of the tube, the cat's out of the bag. There's just there's no fixing this at this point, right? And the argument's going to be, Paul, going forward, as long as the coaches can move around like they do willy-nilly, why can't the players do it? It's the same dang thing, right? And I kind of agree with that. But back onto the Caleb Downs thing, I mean, I'm disappointed. I think we all are as Dawgs fans. It felt like he was coming home. He was right in our lap. Probably one of the best players in college football on the defensive side of the game right now. He's incredible. But he goes to Ohio State. You know what the best news out of all this is? He's not at Alabama anymore. We don't have to mess with him anymore, okay? Maybe we see him in the playoffs. I kind of doubt it, but that's where he is now. So fine. Bama still loses in this scenario, and that makes me happy.
Right. So the overall grasp of this, which is funny, Red and Black Dog says cashed his check and now he's transferring again. That would be wild. One of these guys will try it at some point. Quinn Ewers already did. He went to Ohio State, cashed it, and went back to Texas before his prom. It's one of those things where you look at it and you just say, all right, well, time to move forward. Him and Malachi would have been disgusting. Would have been absolutely
generational.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But you move forward now. The biggest thing though, Eddie, this Alabama team is imploding. It's imploding fast. Did you guys see that Alabama just got a commitment from a Washington offensive lineman, 265 pounds?
And a wide receiver is going to commit too. So one of the guys.
I mean, I'm not knocking them, but I don't know if 265 pounds is going to work in the SEC compared to how it was in the Big Ten.
Is that their Rhode Island? Is that their Rhode Island transfer that Kirby got?
No, that kid came from Washington.
No, I know. I'm saying that's the equivalent of the Rhode Island guy that came. I'm not knocking the kid, but that's
everybody knocked Tyler Catalina. The dude started every game.
And
then he went to the NFL and played and had a very successful career.
But Paul, we were in a desperate situation right there. That's the bottom line.
But he did all right.
Yeah,
I got a massive splinter in my finger, guys. It's going to bother me all show. Just letting you know. I'm trying.
Florida just got Jameer Grimsley, and he was another one that committed to Alabama, and then he portaled out. So, yeah, they're losing guys left and right.
Well, let me just say this one more thing on this. Everybody's like, well, these kids are just going to take the highest bidder and move on from there. Well, I disagree with that because A, every kid is wired a little differently. B, we don't know every kid's situation, their family situation. And look at KJ Bolden. He could have taken the bag. He said that himself. He could have taken the bag and gone elsewhere, right? And he didn't. So every kid's a little bit different. Their family situation, their money situation is a little bit different. I just hate that blanket statement that, these kids are just going for the highest bidder. That's not always the case. It probably was in this case with Caleb.
Definitely was in this case. Yeah,
it probably was, and that's fine. That's his deal. But whatever, we don't know his situation. So I just hate that blanket statement about all these college kids are all in it just for the money. That's just not true.
Well, we are in it for the money here on this program, and KC gave us a nice $20. Said, Andy, there are no rules anymore.
There are rules.
Rain NIL money. There's a rule
right here. An athlete is permitted to transfer once without penalty, allowing them to play immediately at their new schools. The transferring more than once would need a waiver. So there is a rule. Now that waiver seems to get given away, but there is a rule. So
what Andy is saying, Eddie, is
correct.
is no, well, I guess maybe, is that the college has to fill out one sheet of paper and fax it into the NCAA, and the kid can play. That's
who's looking at this waiver? Who's
like
the arbiter of this?
There's an intern just sitting by the fax machine, just taking it and saying, all right, Caleb Downs, yep, he's good.
Yeah.
Jake Pope, yep, all right.
There is a rule. So.
Yeah, there is a rule, but I don't know how much is behind it. Alvin Mixon watching from Augusta, Georgia. Hopefully be down there in a couple months with the Masters. You got any tickets, Alvin? I would love those. Let's see here. Guys, Ken from Cummings says, don't forget Jake Pope. He can play safety. Garrett Key says, Ohio State's NIL collective, the foundation, must have sold their soul to the devil after Michigan won Natty because they're on a roll right now. Yeah, so that article that came out, did you guys see Lane Kiffin tweet that article out?
Yeah, earlier today.
Yeah, earlier today, basically saying Ohio State had spent $13 million, and that was before Caleb Downs. So now they're at $14 million. And then they got Julian Sands. So I'm assuming quarterbacks probably go for more of a premium. $15 million they spent on a roster this year, and they might not get past Michigan. So here's the other crazy part, guys, is this whole 30-day rule after a coach leaves is going to get interesting.
Yeah.
And it did for Alabama. I think Alabama would have had more guys leave had this been done a little earlier. Luckily for Alabama, they didn't lose everybody. They lost a ton, but they didn't lose everybody because classes have already started.
Yeah.
For a lot of schools, add drop is done.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to make exceptions to these kids to come into your program, and of course, there's going to be exceptions to every rule, right? But the thing is, Jim Harbaugh is looking around at NFL, and he's interviewing again with the Falcons. He's going to the NFL. It might not be with the Falcons. We'll touch on him later in the show, but he's going to the NFL. So that window is then going to open up a 30-day window for these Michigan kids to leave, but it might not be until the middle of February.
Right.
You can't accept these kids. Now, you can accept them, I guess. They can't go through spring practice, and they have to go through summer, and there's some weird workaround, right? But you wouldn't be able to work them out in spring practice.
Because they're not enrolled as a student, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you'd have to wait until, May, whatever the summer semester is, get them on campus. Weird. Very weird how this is working out. I don't think we'll see it very often, though, with coaches waiting this long. But Michigan's going to have a run on their players, too, in a very similar stance once Harbaugh leaves, right?
Well, they're saying Brian Kelly is the guy that may replace Harbaugh. So then LSU would have the 30-day window. Correct. So who takes over LSU? I mean, do you think Lane Kiffin would go to LSU if they came calling?
Of course. Yeah.
And then there's a 30-day window for Ole Miss.
Right. So it's like back in the day, Andy, when you play NCAA 14, the coaching carousel would happen.
Yep.
And so that top school, their coach leaves, and now that second to top school. And then it just bumps. It creates a domino effect. And what's going to end up happening is that domino effect is going to in this instant, is going to kind of screw the players almost, because there's going to be very limited options. What are you going to do? Hey, I'm transferring to Georgia, but I'm going to finish out this semester at LSU. Can you please still pay for my schooling while I'm there? It's just a very weird thing that's going to happen here. We haven't seen it yet because this whole new thing is taken about very recently, but it's going to happen. Harbaugh's going to leave. Somebody's going to take a big step from whether it be Brian Kelly or somebody from a Power 5 school, unless they hire from within that Sharon Moore guy. That's the only option that Michigan has of retaining their players. I don't know.
Here's the amazing thing to me, guys. We talked about Nick Saban, and he's the greatest of all time. I think he's better than any coach that's ever coached in college football. And that guy thinks through everything, every scenario over and over and over. But I think he absolutely screwed the University of Alabama. And I think it was a rash decision, because if Saban just goes through the spring and decides to retire, I don't know, when fall camp starts, none of these players are going to leave. They're going to be locked in. He made a rash decision, and I think it's costing Alabama dearly, because a lot of these players are leaving, and I think even more are going to leave when Kalen DeBoer comes in, because there's going to be some players that don't jive with him. It's a different thing. There's another portal that opens up in the spring. Go ahead, Paul. You got something to say?
No, I think he had to leave now. You couldn't lead these kids on and say, "Hey, I'm coming back." You got to start recruiting the 25 class and the 26 class. He had to leave when he did. It's just
So
one of
there's,
those things.
so there's really no good time to leave then, right?
I don't. Yeah. So now that we're in
Yeah.
this 12-month college football cycle, there isn't a good time to leave.
Yeah.
Because you leave right after the season ends, then all your guys have free roam to the portal. This might be the best time because some of those kids have to stay because of enrollment issues. So
again, if you got to have a succession plan in place, and that maybe involve somebody internally. Externally may be impossible, right? Maybe Lane Kiffin was their guy and he said no. I don't know what happened there, but you know what I'm saying? If Kirby left tomorrow, Georgia would be in the lurch too, unless they promoted somebody from within and just moved right on, right?
And that might be, if we're looking forward ahead to college football, that might be the only chance you have of keeping your roster around.
Right.
Is promoting from within. You bring in a guy, and Kalen DeBoer, I think, is a really good coach. I haven't talked about it on the show yet because I wasn't here when he got hired. I think he's a good coach. He has no ties to the Southeast, though.
That's right.
Zero. None. And X's and O's, great. In the South, Kirby said it when he got to Georgia. It doesn't matter about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and Joes.
Yep.
Like, you have to be able to recruit those kids. And when he was at Washington, most of his players were from former head coaches at Washington. I think only 3 or 4 of the starters were recruited by him, and they were all transfers. So none of those guys that he had playing this year were any of his guys, right? That he had molded and developed. Maybe that says a good thing on him. He was able to take guys that he didn't have any clue about and create a winning culture. Or, he's already behind the 8 ball and not able to recruit. We'll see. Real quick on the Alabama hire, because we didn't touch on it last week. A to F. Give it a grade, Andy.
I'll give it a B. I think he's a good coach, but no Southern ties. So I'll give it a B.
Okay.
This is cheesy, but I'm going to say incomplete. I don't know. I mean, yes, Paul, he can coach. His record shows that. He's won everywhere he's been. But this is a different animal he's walking into. It's the University of Alabama. He loses 2 games. Those fans are going to be jumping off bridges and wanting him burned at the stake next year, right? I mean, Washington and the press, all that kind of stuff. Washington's a different animal. So I'm going to say incomplete. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think B's fair. I think B, if you're not going incomplete, I like that grade. I do like that grade, incomplete grade. We haven't seen the full body of work. I'll go B though, just on the actual X's and O's. We'll see if he can recruit though. Speaking of recruiting, Friday, I thought for sure Bill Belichick was going to be announced as the new Falcons head coach. That didn't happen. Now they're interviewing Harbaugh's second time. They have interviewed so many coaches, I feel like, this round. It is unbelievable. And I don't know if that's, credit to Zoom and Zoom taking over and them just able to say, hey, hop on a Zoom with us. Mm-hmm. We'll interview you. Where does this eventually end? Does it end this upcoming week? Does it go past this week? Where in y'all's head is this coaching hire fiasco at this point? Where is it at?
Are you asking who do we want it to end up being, or are you asking who do we think?
Where is it at in the process right now? Because Thursday, Friday, you could have sent me a text, either one of y'all, and said Belichick's the new head coach. And I would have believed you 100%. Now you text me that, I'm going to have to get a second source confirmation. I'm going to have to check the old Twitter because it seemed like that was going on and now it doesn't. So
they still haven't completed the Rooney Rule. So that is something you have to interview a minority in person. So they have not done that yet. So that is, and I think they're waiting on Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And I think they were wanting to interview Steve Wilkes in person as well, So
and they've interviewed 3 via Zoom, but that doesn't count according to the Rooney rules. Right.
So I mean, they got to get that done. So if that's the case, we're still, I'd say, at least a week away, but I think something will be announced by the end of this week. And I think it's going to end up being Belichick, but that's who I think will end up being.
Yeah. Eddie, where's this process at? You follow this pretty religiously. It seems like it was almost over. And now, in my opinion, it's almost restarted.
Yeah,
that's just my take.
It has. Yeah, forgive me, guys. Have they interviewed Todd Monken? I know they've interviewed Mike McDonald.
No,
they
have not.
They have not interviewed Todd Monken.
As far as I know, I was looking earlier, and they have not interviewed Monken.
I just wonder if that changes because Mike McDonald and Todd Monken looked amazing yesterday, and Bobby Slowick did not. So things change on a dime.
Well,
I know.
can I interrupt you? How do you feel about Slowick? Do you think because this is his first year as a coordinator, is that an issue with you? You don't mind?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't want to go down that road either. But
no, a first year coordinator, no. Like, get a couple more years underneath your belt.
And that's how I feel too. But I think he's the up-and-comer guy. But
it's so different in the NFL compared to college football, is it not?
It is.
Glenn Schumann,
Dabo wasn't even he was never a coordinator. I mean, he's won 2 national championships.
Yeah, but look, Glenn Schumann has been around forever. He's been the DC for 4 or 5 years now. And people are like, no way would I take him. He needs to go to a group of 5 first before he comes to Power 5. It's different in the NFL. Your name can rise so fast in the NFL compared to college.
But Monken is not on the Slowick level because he's done it before. He's been a head coach and he's been a coordinator before for the NFL, right? So, but Paul, back to your question, this is what bothers me. And I'm not as high on Belichick as everybody else seems to be right now. I think from a selfish perspective, if we hired Belichick, we would lead ESPN in August over Aaron Rodgers. The Falcons would be the talk of the NFL. So that would be kind of cool, right? I mean, it'd be a circus, but we'd finally get some attention, Paul. We may even get a night game and get out of that 1 p.m.
We will definitely get a couple primetime games.
So that's great. That we haven't had any attention since Michael Vick in our Super Bowl run. That's been it pretty much. So that would be kind of cool. And I don't think Belichick's forgotten how to coach. The guy has made some personnel decisions that haven't been good lately. I think they all have, but he's a really good coach. But here's the thing that I don't understand. They've now interviewed Belichick twice, right? Mm-hmm. And now they're interviewing Harbaugh, who I want, the second time. So something tells me that there's something not jiving here. And I personally think it's Belichick. I think Belichick is being torn with either money or control or both. And they're not giving him what he wants. I think it's more control more than anything. They're not giving him the kind of control that he wants. And I also think it's a push between him and Blank on the ego side, because I think Belichick's the kind of coach to say, F you, get back in the box and let me coach this team. And Blank's not like that at all. So, that's where I am with that. But I'm still on the Harbaugh train. I want Jim Harbaugh. And one more thing, guys. AJC had a very interesting article about Belichick. Why are the Falcons the only team that seems to be interested in Belichick? That to me is a red flag. Nobody else that has an opening is even talking to the guy. Why?
Well, I think I might have seen. Did I not hear on a game earlier today that Belichick was going to interview with the? I was going to say San Diego with the out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, you do that every time. You always call them San Diego.
They're going to be San Diego.
I haven't heard that either.
Following Belichick's, comings and goings. You're the stats guy. Look that up for us, Andy. You got like 7 monitors over there. You can do that. So the Dogfather says, "Look, no other team has a Magic City. That's why he's here."
Yeah, that's what Belichick's really interested in that.
The problem is, guys, I think Belichick's 72.
Yes.
We have 3 years.
Yes.
Out of him, max. Maybe 75. I mean, even if he were to come in here and crush it, you've probably got a 3-year window. Alex Page, I'm going to give you some homework. Who's the oldest head coach in the NFL? How old was he? Because I'm curious. Like, who's the oldest guy ever to coach a football game in the NFL? 75? I mean, you're only getting 3 years out of him at the most. You have to still get a quarterback.
I got that answer if you want it for the oldest coach.
Who's the oldest?
Romeo Crennel. He was 73 years and 199 days.
Wow. I had no idea he was that old.
Yeah.
So who's underneath him?
George Halas, and then Marv Levy, and then Pete Carroll. So
yeah. And then Belichick's probably close.
Belichick is 5th on the list at 71 years, 269 days. So yeah.
So he's 72 now. You have him for 2 years. He will be the oldest person to ever coach an NFL team. Yeah. And that's bringing him in right now to try to rebuild, try to grow your program. You have 2 years until he's the oldest guy to ever coach a team.
I don't know that he'd do this, But what if you brought in Belichick and you brought in Vrabel to coach the defense, and he's your successor?
Do it.
Going, well, I don't know that he would either, Paul. But I'm just
bring in
saying,
Vrabel. Just bring in Vrabel.
No, I 100% agree with you. I'm just saying if he's and I read Blank is desperate to hire Belichick. That's really great when your owner's desperate to hire a coach. My God, I mean,
that's
come
72.
on. I know at 72, but I mean, you're right, Paul. I don't think Vrabel would ever do that, but you never know. That's his boy, Belichick. What if they said, okay, we got a 3-year plan here. Belichick's here for 3 years, then you take it over after that. I would be on board with that. I think that'd be great.
And it was actually Vrabel that I saw that was interviewing with.
I don't think Belichick's name has been brought up anywhere else. Which Eddie, that is a little concerning.
Yeah.
James Carraway, this is my thing right here. He said, at this point, I don't care who they pick, just make sure you go get Kirk Cousins. 1 million, billion, trillion %.
But did you see what Kirk Cousins said? He said he would love to play for Belichick.
Yep.
Man.
What are you trying for?
Right now, on the spot, putting you on the spot, Eddie. Who did the Falcons end up with, and who is their starting quarterback next year?
So take my heart out of it. Who do they end up with?
Not who you want, not what you would wish would happen, but who do you think will be the head coach, and who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback?
I have this sneaking suspicion that Belichick does like Rex Ryan a few years ago and leaves us at the altar and goes somewhere else. Harbaugh's not the guy, and it's like who's the Detroit guy? I'm sorry, his name escapes me.
Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson. Yeah, and I think they'll hire like a Ben Johnson.
Paul, what do you think happens?
Quarterback, you asked me quarterback. I think they draft a quarterback. I don't think they go – I think they draft a quarterback and put him in. Hopefully it's Jaden Daniels, but I don't think it will be at 8.
I think it's Belichick and Cousins. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it'll get announced this week that Belichick's the head coach. And Kevin thinks the Gators or he said Desmond Ridder and Ben Johnson, but
no, there's no way Desmond Ridder is running out there.
He played his last game the last time. Who do you think, Paul?
Right now, let's go Harbaugh.
Oh,
and
you think that'll happen? You think that's see? I don't think that's a legit possibility.
Look, I think if it was going to be Belichick, it would have already been announced. I don't know. They've met up a lot.
I just think they got to get past the Rooney Rule. I just think they're going through. They're interviewing everyone. I think they're just doing.
Do you think they've already worked it out with Belichick? They got to do 1 or 2 more interviews just to check the box, and then they're done.
I think it's a done deal personally.
Yeah.
But
all right, fine. Belichick and Cousins. If that's the case, I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it because I do not think drafting a quarterback at 8 is the right move because all the guys are going to be gone. Shoot says, watch us end up with Bo Nix. I would riot. Yeah. Alex asked the question. He said,
waiting. Wait a minute. Back up there. Would that be a riot if he sits in waiting behind Kirk Cousins and learns for a year or 2?
Yes, because there's no reason to draft him at the 8th pick when you need help.
No. Did he say that? I agree at the 8th pick, but I'm talking about later on. No.
What if you get Bo Nix in the 3rd round? What if you got
Bo Nix?
You don't think?
No, look it up right now. Look where he's going in mock drafts. He's not in the 3rd round at all.
Bo Nix mock drafts. Let's see. If he goes anywhere.
Alex Page, while you're looking that up, says, Paul, what's your definition of crush it? Win the division and make a run to the NFC title game or make it to the Super Bowl? Probably make it to NFC title game.
Hey, the definition of crushing it as the Falcons is a winning record. That's crushing it nowadays.
So what I'm getting at, though, is you're only going to have 2 years at this guy for he's the oldest head coach in NFL history.
Right.
You got a small window, right?
Yeah.
Then he doesn't have time to rebuild this whole roster. He doesn't have time to go through here and do everything that he probably wants to do.
But he doesn't have to. That's the thing with the Falcons, Paul. He's got
you just made that up. He's literally projected.
Right here. This says Nix comes off the board in the 3rd round in the projection. This is on. I swear, I'm reading it right here.
All right. Put some money on it. Put some money.
No,
on
it. I don't put money on it.
Exactly.
Look, you're stupid enough to trade up to the 1st pick of the draft and draft him. So no, there's no way I would put money on it.
I agree with Trevor there. I like the Dallas Turner pick at 8. I agree with that. If you get Kirk Cousins, go a different direction. I agree.
Would you go in or defensive line, or would you go offensive line though?
With what?
With the 8th pick. I mean, there may not be a guy at the 8th pick to trade down, but I want some offensive linemen. But
I take Dallas Turner. What's crazy is I've seen a ton of mock drafts where picks 1 through 7 are all offensive guys. Dallas Turner is the first guy off the board as a defensive player, which I think is interesting.
Yeah,
this is an interesting thing here by Bob Clyburn, old BC, coming in with some knowledge. Says, imagine if the most successful coach of all time is bypassed by the Falcons, and he goes on to win another Super Bowl team. That is something that's a little bit wild, because we're going to look back on this. I mean, we already know now. Bill Belichick's the GOAT, is he not?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here, myself is included. I'm included in this, being like, no, I don't want the guy. He's the GOAT, and I'm like, I don't want the guy. So Bob is putting us in a little bit of perspective here, which is interesting.
Well, think about it this way: he was the coach of the other team that ripped our hearts out. What if he comes in and wins the whole thing for us and just returns the favor and wins the Super Bowl for the Falcons?
Yeah, the irony there is just
irony would be crazy. So, and also this mock draft has Bo Nix going 14th overall. So
yeah, he's going first round, Andy. Like I said, you want to put some money on him going third round? I'll give you great odds.
Okay, 10-1.
No, not that much. Let's see here. Garrett Key says, "Who's that hot tight end out of Iowa?"
Exactly.
We know that's who the Falcons are going.
Yep.
That would
Caden
be
Proctor in a year or two, but
yeah, that would be crazy. James says, "We haven't had a pass rush since NAM. Get Dallas Turner." I agree. Alex Page, Falcons need an edge pass rusher. Totally agree. KC says, "We keep buying old toys. I want some new toys. Quarterback and edge rusher." Yeah. Let's see. Yes. So Curtis Maximus, a.k.a. I don't know why he changed his picture. I will always remember him as Pickles Cage. He really needs to change it back, honestly.
That's a pretty sick pick, though. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. Would another team want Nick Saban right now? Absolutely, yes. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's a silly question because Nick Saban's not going anywhere. I mean, he's
But I think what Curtis Maximus is getting at, they're the same age.
yeah, I think that's his point. Yeah.
Okay.
They're a little different. I mean, Alabama's still on top of the world, and Saban's doing it with a different quarterback every year or coordinator. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
It's also a little different too, in the sense that if we're talking about Saban in college football, absolutely, because he would. I mean, let's say he goes to Pitt, right? Didn't he coach at Pitt for a little while? Say he goes back to Pitt. He's going to bring in – you thought Deion Sanders at Colorado brought in transfers. Nick Saban would remodel the entire Pitt team and win the ACC this year.
Going away. Yeah.
He would
he wouldn't even have the kids in on spring practice, and somehow they would win.
Yeah.
So it's a little different with Nick Saban. Now, in the NFL, would you take Nick Saban? That's an interesting kind of proposal there. It's a little different. He can't build that team up.
Yeah,
he can't put out the bat signal, you know, and all these kids are like, oh, Nick Saban's at Pitt now.
Yeah,
I'm going to Pitt. In the NFL, it's roster management.
Can you put up that question by John Radford? And what do you think about that?
Would you lose a late pick for Rattler?
I will say this: Brent Rollins said,
"Yeah,
take Rattler in the third round."
He's high on him.
But
that's assuming you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback.
Yeah, right? for sure. If you have Kirk Cousins, and then that's an intriguing.
How late of a pick?
Would you go third round? Would you draft him that early? You wouldn't take him that early?
No, fifth round. Yeah, sure. I don't know where he's being mocked to.
See, if it's a late pick, I'm gonna stick with my guy. I'd take Michael Penix on a late pick. I'd take a chance on that guy later.
Michael Penix is going. He's probably going 8th pick. You can have him at 8. You want Penix or you want Cousins?
No. He's going to go to the second round, I would think, after that performance in the national championship. He dropped way off. You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
This has Rattler going in the 4th round, around the 100th pick. So.
Yeah, maybe if we get the rest of the holes filled that we need. James Carraway, Penix is going top 10.
Really?
He's going top 10.
Ooh.
Okay.
Shooter says they're talking about Penix.
That's what I see.
Yeah, I've seen Penix in the. Yeah, I don't think he's going after that game. I don't think he is.
You could get him with our 44th pick. Is where I think he'd be available.
Ooh, I don't know.
Our second round pick.
You want to put some money on that one?
In a second.
No.
Gators KB12. Is this KB? Is this
That's,
the KB?
that's my friend Kevin. Yeah, that's the guy that I was telling
I
you.
thought this was because I got a Gators friend. His initials are KB too. So
This is my friend Kevin. He's the one that is trying to hook you up with some work, but
nice.
he's slow like the Gators.
He made it through the whole year this year without an injury. I mean, I know he's had 2 ACLs, but he wasn't injured this year.
His medical. The problem is Alex Page will tell you too. His medical, once he goes through all those NFL teams, there's going to be some red flags.
Well, that'll drop him too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think he's going to the second round easy. I mean, you saw it with Kobe Dean. And
we saw it with Darnell Washington.
Yeah.
We've seen it a lot. Let's see here. Yeah. Look, Dogfather's already on it. We thought Nicole would go round 1, 2 till the NFL medical team started digging at the combine. Yeah, it's very, very true. He says, Paul, you are reading my mind. I know. It's just, when you have that connection, Dogfather. Hey, just so you guys know, Dogfather is live on TikTok damn near every time I'm on TikTok. But his wife knows more about football than he does.
Oh, is that right? Well, we need to have her on instead of him next time.
Right. Yeah, his wife knows way more about football than he does. I'm not kidding either. The woman is the
dog mother. Is it the dog mother?
Yeah, I don't know what her name is. The dog mother. I don't know if that's it. I don't know how that doesn't fall off the tongue like the Dogfather.
No, it doesn't.
Dog mother is a little, and maybe a different name.
Hard to say. Yeah.
Tree Cracker. That's a hell of a name, brother. That's your Facebook name too. It says good evening and go Dogs. That's wild. Good evening to you too. We've got somebody waiting in the back. Let's see.
Nuh-uh.
What? He doesn't have his camera on, so I think we're gonna maybe come back to him later.
Okay.
David Williams says go Dogs. Real quick before we wrap up this Falcons chatter. Anybody else that you would be okay with, Harbaugh or Belichick, besides those two?
I mean, there's some good coordinators out there, but I want someone that's experienced. I think we need a guy that's been a head coach, and that's why I think if we're going to a coordinator, I would say go to Monken because he was a head coach. I know it's college, but you're still running a program.
You're being a little biased.
And I am biased. But hey, what has he done this year? With he looks that game last night. I mean, that's okay.
You could see him dialing up those plays.
Another on the spot,
yeah. Monken's a genius, man. He was dialing them up last night. He's awesome. My pick is Mike Vrabel. That's
okay.
Right.
James Carraway says Aaron Glenn. I like that. So that's the Lions defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Brady.
Yeah,
Weird how Joe Brady's name has come back out around this time. He was the hot name a couple years ago.
Yeah, he was.
With LSU. And it was one of those things where we kind of forgot where he was.
He had went to the Panthers and he got fired. So for like half a year.
Yeah. Alex Page says Wilkes or Morris.
Well, see, I like Raheem Morris too. I like Raheem Morris.
Yeah. I like Raheem Morris. Yeah. And I do think there's a connection there. What did he coach the Falcons for 2 games? Blank knows him and likes him, I think. So, yeah.
Garrett Keys being funny tonight said Dan Quinn round 2. Garrett is also trying to get banned from the show. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Trevor says Mike McDonald. I wouldn't be opposed with that. He's also young. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if Blank's going that way. KC says Harbaugh. The Chop says Raheem, not Raheem. Raheem. I like that.
What's Barry Watson talking about?
This is a wild take from B Dubs. He says, I believe Jerry Jones is planning on hiring Coach Prime and drafting his son at quarterback. Look, that might be one of those things, Barry. If that does happen, you can go back and clip this and become an absolute genius. I don't know if that happens or not. But we'll see. Dan Campbell has swayed me on needing a play caller. Just want the best leader. Dude,
Yeah.
Dan Campball.
100%.
I'm all.
Hey, the players after when they were being interviewed after the game were just gushing about Campbell. Just they love the guy. They'd run through. I know it's stupid to say the proverbial wall they'd run through, but it seems like that's the way he coaches his team. They love the guy.
And let me remind you, 3 years ago today was when he got hired and he had that press conference.
Oh, he was.
And everybody was like, "Yo, this is not the guy." What is this?
Drugs? Yeah, he looked like he was so messed up. I mean,
What is this guy doing?
Yeah, I remember like on ESPN they were talking about. They were like, "How did this guy get a job?" Because I think it was like you can't hire Eric Bieniemy, but you can hire this guy. I mean, it was so. And what about Bieniemy? Where do y'all stand on him? I mean,
he's been interviewed like 12 times and nobody's giving him a shot. Something
is he going to get the? Is he going to get the Washington job? I mean,
somebody's eventually going to give him the head coaching job. And it's either going to be a huge success or a huge fail. There's going to be a bunch of guys sitting back going, "Damn, I could have had him 3 years ago." It's crazy. So Nick B says Ray Goff. Yeah, call him up, Nick. See what he's up to. See if he wants to lead these Falcons to the promised land. Dogfather says, "Hell, why not just Arthur Smith? His office, it's already there."
Nah, he's trolling. Get the dog mother on. I'm tired of that.
Someone that knows football. Yeah, get the dog.
Right.
I don't believe this, KC. KC says it's going to take at least 5 years to turn the promise.
Totally disagree with that. Totally disagree.
What do you think, Eddie?
I just said I totally disagree. I think that's a horrible take. The Falcons could have made the playoff. All right, let's just say this right now, or I'll ask you guys this: if everything's the same this year and Jim Harbaugh is our football coach this year, do we go to the playoffs?
Yes,
probably. Yeah,
100%. There were at least 3 games that Arthur Smith pissed away because of clock management, stupid play calls, or he wouldn't get the ball to his playmakers, or he'd give the ball to a playmaker and then sit him down because he's tired of him making good plays.
And then the best part about it is when you throw that third string tight end in there and you get him to pass to the second string tight end.
Yeah, brilliant.
They won't see that coming.
The NFL is like this. It's for all teams, guys. It's this close. Every game goes down to the wire. There's 3 or 4 games. You win or lose on the last play. The Falcons are not that far. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl contenders next year, but the Bucks. I know. Look at the Bucks. They played really well today, and could have beaten Detroit. I mean, they gave them a run for their money. So, and the Bucks are garbage. I'm sorry, they're garbage. Yeah. So, we beat Green Bay this year. Think about that for a second. Now, I know it was early in the year, but we beat them.
Well, here's your question. What if the Falcons had a healthy Kirk Cousins this year? Would they have made the playoff?
Oh, hell yes.
So that's the point. You are 1 or 2 players away from winning 3 or 4 more games. So
hell, you win 5 games with Kirk Cousins.
Well, there you go. But that's the thing. Like when they said it's, that they're 5 years away. No, they're 2 or 3 players away.
And they're in a great position salary cap wise. They have a they have a pretty good defense. I know they got some older guys they got to figure out what to do with, but they can make some moves. They're in good draft position right now. So things
there you go. You get Dallas Turner, you get Kirk Cousins, and then you just keep working on the O-line and D-line. Yeah. And you have a coach that is competent, that's not an idiot like Arthur Smith, he's a genius. Close the show out, Paul. We're good. So.
Man, I'm telling you, you bring in Harbaugh, you bring in Kirk Cousins, you draft Dallas Turner. Man, I'd be happier than to pick in some slop, brother.
Are you going to go to a Falcons game next year if you have Jim Harbaugh as the head coach? Will you
why don't we just do a live show at the game?
Oh, yeah.
Get you out of the house, Andy.
There you go. Hey, I was out of the house all day. I was at my sister's.
Go down to hang out at the Gulch, Andy, and we can do the show from there.
Yeah,
let's do it.
We do have. I don't know. I didn't invite him, but he is in the background. He's here.
Oh, damn it! I thought I wasn't on. I was still.
Oh, you were, brother.
Did you see that whole thing in the before I came on? I was just the whole time. Yeah. No, the key question is the Falcons may be in the Super Bowl if they sign Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying.
God, how long
Eddie, why did you not sign Lamar Jackson? Eddie had all of the dude.
So weird,
he says he doesn't regret the decision. Is the craziest part.
He's an idiot, though. I mean,
Arthur Blank, your owner, says I don't regret it. It's keeping Desmond Ridder over Lamar Jackson. You can say, you know what? He's a good player. I messed up.
Here?
What? Yeah, I mean, what is your point?
Irrelevant.
We don't have Lamar Jackson. You do. You're probably going to the Super Bowl. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Hey, if the Falcons are so dumb, why were the Ravens going to let him go? The Ravens weren't sold on him either. So.
Because they're an elite organization that knew how to negotiate. The whole preface of that deal was the fully guaranteed money.
I saw. Look, Eddie. Here's what happened. I saw him. He got into the back of the chat, right? And I was like, you know what? We're about to move on to Georgia basketball. Ben keeps bugging me. saying, I want to talk about Georgia basketball. So I bring him on, and this is the shit that he says. He talks about Lamar Jackson again with wearing his Ravens beanie. Like, congratulations. Congrats.
Hey, I will say, I after last night, I think they might be the best team in football. I think they might win the whole thing.
Sure. Congratulations.
They're good. So,
congrats, Ben. What else do you want to talk about today?
All right, I pissed you off, so I achieved my first goal. All right, so I will say this, Paul. I told you before the year that I said Georgia basketball this year was going to push for the tournament. I know yesterday there were some people, because I had to deal with some of the – all weekend, Paul, we've been taking shots for the Caleb Downs stuff from people on the vault, vent, wherever. And the Hoops board was kind of similar with that Kentucky game. I think – despite losing by single digits, which I know it's not acceptable, but it's a top 10 team, which is a top 5 talent team in college basketball on the road.
You were getting run off the floor for most of the game, really. So
they were resilient. And
I know. I'm giving them some credit.
This is the difference with Georgia basketball to me, because I've been following them and all sorts of college basketball for years. I said last year to a lot of people who have been following forever that they need better shooting and they need depth. And also, I think that there's a third thing. They need a legitimate big, and I think Tachua, you can't rely on him consistently. You can't. So he's maybe one of the holdups. But they can shoot.
Terrible.
They can shoot.
It was a big upgrade from what we've had. But go ahead.
God, yeah.
Oh, 100%. From Bridges, they didn't have a big last year. They just didn't. So when you look at this year, they have 4 to 5 legit shooters. Yep. Last year, they had one who emerged in the middle of the year, and Raheem, who's incredible. Who I think is one of 2 players on this team that will be NBA draft picks one day, will be Raheem and Silas Demery. I'm not saying first-round picks, Paul. I said draft picks. Because Raheem is a 6'8" guy with a legacy. I've heard, and maybe Eddie watched his dad, and I've heard from everybody that his dad was the best high school basketball.
Raheem? You watched him.
Well, I heard he was the best high school basketball player ever in the state of Georgia.
He was awesome.
Ever.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, he has that pedigree, and his ability to shoot at 6'8" as a forward is going to translate to any basketball level. And he's your scorer. But Silas Demery is the glue to that team. If he can develop consistent shot a little bit more, he's the type of star player that can be a first-round pick. Think about this, Paul. I don't think people know this. Bronny James signed with USC. Mm-hmm. Because they went out and wanted Bronny James, Silas Demery was signed to USC. They booted him for Bronny, who isn't playing or doing much for USC.
Yeah.
Thank God, because now Demery is one of the biggest star freshmen in all the SEC by far. Mm-hmm. And now you have a star player that you looked at Florida. He had Trey Mann, I believe, who's actually doing good things in the NBA. He has that, I think, with Silas Demery, if he can be a 2-3-year college player. I think he has that. And this team, if they can win this week, I think they have LSU. They should beat LSU at home. There should be no excuses. You should beat them. They're one of the worst teams in the SEC. If they go on the road next weekend and beat Florida on the road, which I think is a personal game to him with how the fans treated him down there.
Sure.
They're a tournament team. And my only concern is when you've played a top, ranked team, when you've played Miami early in the year, when you played Tennessee, and when you played Kentucky, you couldn't get that win. If they can get that one signature win, it's that ranked team, I think they'll get a lot of national talk because it's slowly growing. And I think this team could be a tournament team and actually be something that we can have fun covering. Because in the past, Paul, me, you, and Jason have been like, okay, we got to cover Georgia this week, and it's like same old, same old. If we have the basketball to cover,
hey Ben, you know what's funny? You know what's funny? As you said, he got booted from USC, but I disagree, and so does his father, Silas Demery. He says, no, they did not.
Oh, they didn't boot him.
Boom, there you go. That shows who watches the show, baby.
Yeah,
Silas Demery out there.
Get him, Mr. Demery.
Get him. Yeah, you gave us hell. Mr. Demery's giving you hell back.
Well, I'm going to jump in here, Ben, because I said Sunday night, you weren't on the show, but I said going into this week, which was South Carolina, Kentucky, you split this week and you're in great shape. And that's exactly what they did. Well, they hadn't won in South Carolina since the Ark was built, it seemed like, right? I mean, they finally won in South Carolina. That was a huge deal. Now, this Saturday, yesterday's game, I think was just right for the taking for Kentucky because I asked Dasher about this, and he asked Mike White about it, and Mike White even admitted they did not prepare like they should have for this Ivisic kid. Is that how you say it? Because they didn't think
he went absolutely crazy.
Right, but I'm saying he was ineligible until what, 3:00 on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, that was BS.
Find tape on him, and they didn't prepare for him jacking up
threes.
There
was no tape. He's never
right, exactly. So they were completely caught off guard. Now next time they're going to be more prepared for him. But that was just a tough situation. He scored 13 points. There's the difference in the game right there.
Right. And
yeah, he was, because you can't cover. I mean, what is he? He's got to be over 7 feet tall.
7'3".
Yeah.
And if you're 7'3" and can shoot, you can't defend it. They had Thomason guarding him. Like Thomason might be 6'3", might be. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, he doesn't have the length or the height to guard him. But I think the interesting point, you brought up the South Carolina win. There's two other quick points. One, they can win on the road, which it's hard as hell to win on the road. And two, this team's won so many different ways. When they played Arkansas, Chua went off.
Yeah.
When they played in South Carolina, they only made 3 3-pointers against South Carolina. And that team, remember when they played Tennessee, they hit double-digit 3-pointers. They were up double digits. They were shooting incredibly well behind the arc. When they played South Carolina, they couldn't hit a jumper to save their life. It was free throws. It was defense. They've won different ways. So I appreciate that about this team, that there are nights where Raheem against Arkansas was awful, and they found a way to win.
Yep.
So knowing that this team can win different ways gives me hope that this team could be a tournament team.
And Mike White has also made an emphasis, and we saw this against South Carolina, free throw shooting. That has been the bane of this team for years. They can't make free throws, and that's what South Carolina did. They missed a ton of free throws, and that cost them the basketball game. And we're making free throws. That's huge.
Look, I will say this, since Mr. Dimmery is in here, your son's a baller.
He's
first
awesome.
and foremost. The craziest thing for me with Dimmery
100%
is he can play
most talented guy on the team.
Yeah, he can play point guard, but he's also in there rebounding. It seems like he's in there a good bit down there getting the boards for himself. I like Dimmery. I like Blue Kane. I think Mr. Dimmery, if you can relay to Dimmery Jr. to tell Blue Kane, if you're wearing black shoes, put the black socks on. He's got white socks on with the black shoes. It's throwing me off a little bit. Maybe see if you can't get young Silas to give him some.
And God knows we can't have Paul thrown off while he's sitting on his couch watching a basketball game.
Right. Just see if you can give him a little fashion advice. Maybe you could give him a call, Mr. Silas, and just say, "Hey, man, I'm sending you some black Nike socks to put with the black shoes. It'll all be good." That's all I'm asking. The kids, I like them a lot. Justin Hill is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, this team. I think the thing that we probably ask for the most is just a competitive team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give us some hope.
Right.
We have some hope.
And look, Silas will be back next year. Look. He agrees. The white socks with the black shoes. I'm just saying. Just help us out, Mr. Silas. See if you can't put a little butter. If I see black socks with black shoes next game, I'll know it was from me, and we'll do that. Look, AP, he says, "Appreciate you coaching kids upon the drip." Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I'm looking a little homely myself, but I got a date with the barber tomorrow. So give me some slack. But this team, all we like to see is just a team is competitive, and they definitely are, without a doubt. Every game that I watch,
56% from 3-point yesterday. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And Kentucky was just shooting the gym out. I mean,
they were
shooting from everywhere. The Big Z, that's what they kept calling him, because I don't think they could really pronounce his name because they didn't think he was going to be playing for Kentucky. Eddie, you want to try to pronounce that name?
No.
He's the new DJ Ukulele of college basketball.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. That's right.
Yeah. Zavamir Ivasic.
Zavamir Ivasic.
Yeah, he's definitely a Croatian. He's definitely a Croatian.
Either Visic
or Swedish or something.
I think it's got to be Croatian. So.
Yeah, he's Croatian. You're right. 6'2", 234.
He's 100% one of those
7'2"
guys.
7'2", yeah, 7'2", 7'3". Who's counting? Let's get before we get out of here though. Let's get the man. He says my wife knows football.
Good.
TikTok
why isn't she on?
Yeah, where is she at? Why doesn't she ever get on with us?
She is right next to me, and Eddie, I wore this just for you, man.
That hoodie is kind of fire.
That's the old logo. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss, Mr. Dimmery. I don't know what happened over at USC, but I will tell you this. I'm just enamored with the fact that your son is a basketball player at the University of Georgia. Thank you very much.
Damn right.
Also, shout out your TikTok so he can come watch you after this.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I want that hoodie, though. You can send that to me. We'll take that as payment for shouting out your TikTok this whole time. But how's the new puppy? How's things going over there?
Lad is good. He ate just a while ago, and he's got the zoomies is what we call it. He is kind of zooming all over the living room right now. So he's doing really well. Got him a couple of weeks ago, and just really enjoying having him around. This is our second one, so love having this little man in the house right now.
It's awesome.
He's got a dog named Lad. Andy, where's your dog?
He's around, just not around close enough. No, I don't have one, man.
I know. Yeah.
Come on, Andy.
I'm not here. I'm only here like 3 hours a day, though. So
Yeah, but nothing better than having a dog greet you.
Oh, it
By
is
the
the
way,
greatest thing.
there's an old saying: you could throw your wife in the trunk and the dog in the trunk, lock the trunk, and then open it. Who's going to be the happiest to greet you?
The dog.
Every
that's
time.
a very good point. That's a very good point.
That's wild, Eddie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you
It's
why.
true.
Why don't you try it, Paul, and see what happens?
I don't know if I'll do that. What you know, good dog father? We got like 5 minutes left. I should have brought you on earlier, but Ben took your spot, unfortunately, and I apologize for that.
Well, I can appreciate Ben because Ben always brings that good stuff to the vault and the vent. So I'm much obliged to Ben being here for sure. Just to catch up on the Big Z stuff, you can't tell me that kid doesn't have Nikolai Jokic DNA in his body somewhere. Yeah. I mean, that he could shoot, he could rebound, he could pass. I mean, he came in and it was lights out. I mean, 105 points they scored. I think he had 80 of them.
Yeah. No, he looked good. This Kentucky team, I think Dash said it too on the dashboard, which if you guys are watching, that's one of my favorite pieces. He does like kind of an opinion piece on Sundays where he kind of wraps up everything from their week. Yeah. And he was like, look, this Kentucky team is probably Final Four team. And they got that Aaron Bradshaw kid too. He's a freshman, 7'1". You put both of them in there, there's not a team that can – and both of them can shoot too. Like,
and the Wagner kid was like the number 2 high school recruit in the country that they had.
And they have they got what is this, Reed Shepherd kid? I mean, they got a good team. They got a good team.
Yeah, I think Dash said it was he thought it was Coach Cal's best team that he's had there. So.
No, yeah, I think so. They're clicking on all cylinders, but who knows? Before we get out of here, Dogfather and Ben, since you want to come in here and talk about Ravens keeping Lamar, who's your head coach and who's your quarterback for the Falcons next year?
Who do I think it's going to be, or who do I think it should be?
Who do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be Belichick because I don't think that you wouldn't have this level of reports, and he wouldn't be showing up at Atlanta Chick-fil-A's.
That was from 2019, Ben. It was fact checked.
Yeah. Much like Mr. Henry did earlier in the believe that. I think if he's sending out the private jet and he's interviewing him twice, I have a feeling Belichick is very particular about the jobs he wants. Yeah. So that might be my counter to the fact that he's only been interviewed by one team. I think it's Belichick, and also I think the quarterback's Kirk Cousins. Because I think if you take Belichick, you need a proven veteran quarterback, not a drafted young quarterback. And I wouldn't mind. I think if you guys, my last point, if you had Belichick, McDaniels as OC, Cousins, you're a competent offense and your defense will be great. So you'll be a playoff team.
So in that scenario, Ben, are you saying they don't need to draft a quarterback at all this year?
I don't know about it all, but not in the first round. If you get Cousins, you can go second round or third, depending on who's there.
Fair.
And if it blows up, take Beck next year.
Exactly.
Dogfather.
I think it's Belichick too, and I'm right on what Ben's saying. I think it's Cousins as long as you can get him to sign and get out of Minnesota. And as far as drafting a quarterback, I did put a message in the chat a while ago. You know, you've got 1 through 3 in the draft looking at quarterbacks. So if you were looking at, trying to trade up, the draft capital you would have to use to get up there is going to be ridiculous to try to get one of those spots.
They don't need to do that.
So, I mean, whoever it was that talked about Dallas Turner, I'm all about that. Bring Cousins in, get your quarterback of the future next year. But I want to leave one thing with you guys. It's been mentioned that Belichick the only interview he's taken is in Atlanta. But they have continued to interview past that point. Now, what is the possibility that Belichick brings his guys with him from New England, but some of these other guys that are interviewing right now that don't get head coaching jobs somewhere else, is he vetting them for a possible spot on his staff?
What? So, like, that would be absolutely wild. So I'm just picturing what you're saying. He's, like, sitting in there with Arthur Blank, Rich McKay, and Terry Fontenot, and, like, Aaron Glenn's coming in. And he's like, I thought I was interviewing for the head coaching job. And Belichick's like, no, I want you as a DC. Is that what you're saying?
Is your GM fine with weight?
The reason I'm putting that out there is a lot of this has been virtual. He didn't have to be in front of a screen. He could just be sitting there listening.
Right.
That would be absolutely wild if that was the case. And it could be true. That would be pretty crazy.
Well, that goes back to what I said. That's the coach in waiting, because Belichick's not going to be here 2 or 3 years, right? That's why I think that's what's going to happen.
Who's the coach in waiting?
I'm saying that my theory is that bring in Vrabel. I don't know that he'd do it as a coach in waiting and work the DC under Belichick. I know Paul's shaking his head. Okay, a Todd Monken or a Mike McDonald, coach in waiting.
They're not going to take a lateral move. I couldn't imagine.
How do you know when they're promised a head coaching position when Belichick retires?
I actually think if the Ravens win the Super Bowl, Harbaugh retires and McDonald becomes the Ravens coach, because that's being talked about up here. So I wouldn't rule that out. Now, Monken, I think any team can get. I think McDonald, if he doesn't take a head coaching job, it's because he knows he's going to take over for Harbaugh, because there's some rumblings that he may retire if he gets a ring, which I don't blame him. He's in
How old is he?
He's in his 60s.
Is he really? God, he doesn't look it at all.
No, he don't. He looks younger than that.
His dad was, like they said, like 85. His dad doesn't look 85.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
James Caraway says would be a very funny blank thing to change the Zoom title to coordinator interview and hope the coach didn't notice.
And Josh McDaniels will not be the coach in waiting, or else you guys
no,
or else you're screwed.
That would be hilarious.
He could be an OC only.
We've reached our marker here, the hour marker, and so we've got to wrap this up. Dog Father, salute to you, sir.
Appreciate you guys. Always enjoy it.
Hello to the dog mother.
Yes. And Ben also.
See you, man.
Guys, we'll be back next Sunday. Next Sunday, I think the Falcons do not have a coach.
Oh, you do not?
Wow, you don't? Hey, I got a prediction. Next Sunday, Ben comes on and talks about how that we were stupid for not getting Lamar Jackson. That's my
I've heard that. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that is a rumor that the Falcons should have taken him. So
that I could probably sit behind that. Guys, we appreciate you so much for hanging out with us. I know we didn't talk a ton about Georgia football, but I appreciate you guys all sticking around and talking Atlanta Falcons with us. It was a great time. That's what this show's all about. It's about the Dogs. It's about the Falcons. It's about the Braves. It's where you can get all your, Atlanta sports stuff from this UGA sports page on Sunday nights. So guys, we'll see you next week, same time, 7:30. And any last words, Eddie?
Y'all have a great Sunday. Appreciate it.
That was, I don't know. Andy, can you do a little better?
Go Dogs.